The inner courtyard was the place where the true members of the Snow Sword Manor was located. Most of the personnel recruited from outside could not dream of passing through the main gate of the inner courtyard. Pyowo looked at the inner courtyard from a distance. Zhangguang-san and Sa Okeyan's figures disappeared into the inner courtyard and were no longer visible. He couldn't blindly pursue them like what he did at the front gate of the Snow Sword Manor. It was not difficult for Pyowo to find the blind spot where their eyes could not reach. Pyowo, who confirmed that no one was watching him, flew lightly. The first thing Pyowo did after infiltrating the inner courtyard was to pursue the whereabouts of Zhangguang-san and Sa Okeyan, but by then the figures of the two had already disappeared. Pyowo raised his head and sniffed the air. Among the numerous scents, Pyowo focused on the strong smell of powder. Sa Okeyan took a lot of powder and applied it uncharacteristically. Pyowo's eyes turned to the small gate on the eastern side of the inner courtyard, because the smell of powder was coming from there. Pyowo's face suddenly stiffened slightly. It was because he felt the subtle breathing of a person in the gust of wind. Someone was hiding here. Even for Pyowo, who had great senses, he only detected the other person when the wind blew. The hem of his clothes fluttered wildly in the wind, momentarily blocking his vision. At that moment, the assassin who was hiding moved. Hidden weapons went over Pyowo with a sharp sound. Pyowo executed snake steps and stepped back. However, the hidden weapons even aimed for the new area he moved into. The opponent had already calculated the direction where Pyowo would have moved once he avoided the weapons. In an instant, the assassin's hand aimed for Pyowo's chest. Pyowo used his phantom dagger to attack the assassin's hand. The sharp dagger and hand collided, and a metal sound burst out. Surprisingly, the assassin's hand was intact without the slightest scratch. Pyowo had a hunch that the assassin had learned a special technique. Pyowo retrieved his phantom dagger and dealt with the assassin's attacks with his bare hands. Neither of them made a sound as they clashed so violently. It was a characteristic of highly trained assassins. The assassin, who had rolled on the floor, immediately got up. The assassin had a confused expression on their face. As the assassin clutched their swollen wrist, they muttered, "How can it be?" For the extreme yin hand two to lose, a look of disbelief flashed across their face. They found it hard to believe that their extreme yin hand has been rendered useless. "Who are you?" The assassin raised their head and glared at Pyowo. Then, a beautiful face hidden by their black hair was revealed. Pyowo recognized the assassin's identity at once. Hong Ye-sol. The woman glaring at Pyowo with a frustrated expression was undoubtedly Hong Ye-sol, whom he had met not long ago. Did she receive a request from the Snow Sword Manor? He had been suspicious of her from the moment they met in Runan, but he hadn't expected her to already be here. Hiring someone like her would require an unimaginable sum. The one who had requested her presence must be at the end of this alley. It was also certain that this person was the same one who had sent Zhangguang-san and Sa Okeyan to pressure the Jin family. This piqued Pyowo's curiosity. Who could it be to act with such meticulous planning? Hong Ye-seol spoke again. "You're not going to reveal your identity, are you?" She bit her red lips softly, clearly embarrassed that she had been injured by Pyowo. Just as she was about to speak, suddenly, 4 black shadows emerged from the walls. They carried the unmistakable aura of assassins. Hong Ye-seol shouted, "Wait, this is my job. Stay out of it." Ignoring her, the shadows rushed toward Pyowo. They were assassins like her. Without a word, they attacked in perfect coordination. They moved like interlocking gears, striking in seamless harmony. Individually, they were inferior to Hong Ye-seol. However, their coordination made them far more dangerous. If Pyowo fought seriously, they wouldn't stand a chance. But this was enemy territory. There was no reason to take unnecessary risks. He handled them with restraint, waiting for an opportunity to retreat. Then, the door at the end of the alley opened, and someone stepped out. Accompanied by Zhangguang-san and Sa Okeyan was Li Yul, an attendant of the Snow Sword Manor. Sensing the disturbance, he had come outside. The moment Pyowo saw his face, he knew this man was at the center of everything. An expressionless face, like a mask, deep, penetrating eyes, a refined and composed presence. He was clearly no ordinary person. Li Yul showed no surprise at the sight of Pyowo fighting the assassins. He simply observed quietly. Instead, it was Zhangguang-san and Sa Okeyan who reacted. "It's an intruder." At their shouts, nearby warriors rushed in. After holding out a bit longer, Pyowo suddenly withdrew and fled. The assassins pursued him, followed by the Snow Sword Manor warriors. "An assassin has infiltrated. Surround him. Don't let him escape." Li Yul simply shook his head at the chaos. The room at the end of the alley led to the attendant's office. There was no way someone who had infiltrated this far would be caught so easily. At that moment, Hong Ye-seol approached him. "So, you hired other assassins besides me? That's a breach of contract. I simply wanted to be certain." Hong Ye-seol frowned. The assassins who attacked Pyowo were among the lowest ranks of the 100 Wraith Union, the 4 Red Lotus Ghosts. Though individually weaker than her, their combined strength rivaled hers. She hadn't been informed of their deployment, meaning Li Yul had made a separate commission. "Find out who he is," Li Yul ordered. "You don't think the 4 Red Lotus Ghosts can catch him?" If he were that easy to catch, he wouldn't have made it this far. Do you have any guesses? I'll find out. Fully prepared, Hong Yeseo left the Snowsword Manor. She took out a small vial from her belt. As she opened it, a strong scent spread. She inhaled. Instantly, her senses sharpened. Her sense of smell magnified dozens of times. Thunder blood dog incense. With her technique, her sense of smell now rivaled that of a hunting dog. The drawback was severe. Afterward, her sense of smell would be paralyzed for days. Overwhelmed by the flood of scents, she nearly gagged but forced herself to focus. Gradually, she isolated a specific scent. 1,000 miles chasing incense. Her eyes gleamed. Only the 100th Union could produce it, and she knew it better than anyone. She had used it only once recently. At Runan, she had hidden it within the martial arts manual she gave him. Though his appearance had changed, scent did not lie. Without hesitation, she moved. The farther she traveled, the stronger the scent became. Eventually, she stopped. Before her stood a ruined house, its walls and roof partially collapsed. Firelight flickered from within. Cautiously, she approached. Inside, someone sat before a bonfire. His face glowed in the firelight, almost unreal. Hong Ye-seo let out a quiet breath. He really is handsome. Even after suppressing her emotions through years of training, she was still human. As she approached, her gaze fell on the fire. A familiar object burned within it. The martial arts manual. Her eyes trembled. "You knew?" she asked. "I must have looked like a fool, like a monkey in Buddha's palm. I didn't chase you. You led me here." "Fine. Why did you call me? I have something to ask. Do you think I'll answer?" "That depends. What is it?" "That man's identity. And you think I'll tell you?" "You don't have a choice." Hong Ye-sol suddenly threw an unknown object into the bonfire. With a sharp explosion, thick smoke erupted like a volcano, rapidly spreading and obscuring the surroundings. In that instant, Hong Ye-sol vanished. The technique itself was simple, but her level of execution was on an entirely different level. Not only did her figure disappear, but even the sound of her breathing and heartbeat vanished. As one of the 10 strongest members of the 100th Union, her stealth was absolute. It was as if her very existence had been erased. In an instant, Pyeolwol disappeared. Facing an assassin head-on was foolish. Because he was an assassin himself, he knew exactly how to unsettle one. Just like Hong Ye-sol, he erased his presence completely. This time, it was Hong Ye-sol who was shaken. She had been staring directly at him. She hadn't blinked. She hadn't looked away. Yet she hadn't seen the moment he vanished. It meant that Pyeolwol had moved beyond the limits of her perception. Hong Ye-sol bit her lip. "So you're hiding from me? Then this will be a battle between assassins." Invisible threads extended from her body. They spread out like a spider's web, filling the entire space. Hong Yi-seol held the ends lightly, focusing her senses. Even the slightest disturbance would travel through the threads to her. A perfect detection network, heavenly silver net. With this technique, no one could approach her undetected. Hong Ye-seol closed her eyes. The threads trembled faintly. Wind. It wasn't movement from a person, just air currents. Even with her eyes closed, she could distinguish the cause precisely. Such sensitivity was her greatest weapon. Time passed. She remained completely still, like a statue. Patience was a fundamental trait of high-level assassins. They could wait days, sometimes weeks, without moving, without even drinking water, just to seize a single opportunity. Hong Ye-seol was no exception. She had absolute confidence in her patience. She believed she would outlast Pyeolwol. But no matter how long she waited, she detected nothing. Did he leave? She immediately dismissed the thought. Pyeolwol was not the type to abandon his objective. More time passed. Her body stiffened, muscles aching, but she endured. Then, a faint vibration ran through the threads. He's moving. Her focus sharpened instantly. The movement was so subtle that she would have missed it without complete concentration. Even a stray cat would have made more noise. She gathered chi into her hands, ready to unleash the extreme yin hand at any moment. The vibrations grew stronger. Her tension peaked. The moment a single thread snapped, Hong Yi-seol opened her eyes and struck. Her extreme yin hand exploded forward with far greater power than before. But the instant she attacked, her eyes widened. There was nothing there. She had struck empty space. A burning pain erupted from her left shoulder. A dagger had embedded itself deep, leaving only the hilt visible. She bit her lip, suppressing a scream, and turned. Reacting instantly, she swung her sleeve. Fine sand scattered into the air. It spread like mist, enveloping Pyeolwol, a deadly toxin capable of melting internal organs with a single breath. Difficult to create, she only used it in emergencies. She saw Pyeolwol inhale it. "It's over." Despite the dagger in her shoulder, she remained calm. Soon, his organs would begin to fail. Something suddenly tightened around her ankle. Before she could react, she was violently pulled forward. "What?" she cried out involuntarily. Her body was dragged toward Pyeolwol at terrifying speed. She struggled but couldn't resist. Her mind spun. He had clearly inhaled the poison, so why was he unaffected? More shocking was the thread wrapped around her ankle. She had heard of sword ki, but never of a thread made from ki, and certainly not one this powerful. As she hesitated, she was dragged closer. Only then did she understand. He used his chi thread to disturb the net. That's why I couldn't detect him. For the first time, fear flickered in her eyes. The intelligence she had received about Pyeolwol had been incomplete. He wasn't just skilled, he was terrifyingly creative in how he used his abilities. Wait, she shouted. Her voice carried urgency, but it didn't stop him. Pyowol drew his phantom dagger. As she was pulled closer, she struggled desperately. Only now did she realize. Pyowol had chosen this location first. He already knew the terrain perfectly. There had only been one viable hiding spot. From the beginning, he had known exactly where she was. Wait, let's talk. Her words came unexpectedly. Pyowol paused, frowning. This was not the reaction he anticipated. Assassins usually chose death over revealing their client's secrets. But Hong Ye's soul was different. It hurts. Can you pull the dagger out first? I'll tell you everything, so stop looking so scary. What are you planning? My ulterior motive, she said with a faint smile. It's not much of a secret. Why didn't you say that earlier? I have my pride, she replied lightly. A woman who gives up too easily isn't attractive, you know. Hong Ye's soul let out a bashful laugh. Hong Ye's soul let out a sharp cry as she pulled out the phantom dagger. Her trembling figure, like a sparrow caught in the rain, could easily stir sympathy in anyone who saw her. But Pyowol knew it was nothing more than an act. She hadn't made a single sound when she was stabbed twice. There was no way someone like her would suddenly collapse in pain after pulling the dagger out. Putting 2 holes in a woman's body? How are you going to take responsibility for this? If you think it's unfair, I can kill you right now. Such harsh words from such a handsome face, she replied with a faint smile. Don't you know how to joke? I'm not foolish enough to joke with an assassin. Now talk. Who is he? Li Yule, an attendant of the Snow Sword Manor. Thanks to his influence, the manor has expanded rapidly and returned to Runan. Is he connected to the Jin family situation? Yes. I don't know his true identity, but he's extremely calculating. He frequently hires assassins from the 100th Union. The assassins of the 100th Union work independently. Only the captain knows the details of each mission. Is this your first time working for him? He usually hires low-ranking assassins. This is the first time he's hired me. That alone shows how important this matter is to him. He brought in the most reliable ones. You talk too much to be considered reliable. He broke the contract first, she replied coldly. There's an unwritten rule: clients must not hire multiple assassins without notice. He knew that. Yet he secretly hired others anyway. That's an insult. She looked at Pyowol. I've told you everything I know. There's not much substance. That's all there is. Are you going back to the Snow Sword Manor? I'm thinking of breaking the contract. Since he violated it first, he has no grounds to object. But don't relax, he'll definitely hire someone else. Many in Zhonghu despised assassins, but some viewed them as useful tools. Li Yule was clearly one of those people. He wouldn't stop at just one. What about the leader of the 100th Union? Pyowol asked. That's outside the contract. I won't tell you. She winked. If you don't have more questions, I'll be going. As you can see, I need treatment. She waved lightly, then vanished into the night. Pyowol stared silently at where she had disappeared. The organization exists out of necessity, but its members act independently. That's the 100th Union. Though she spoke casually, he had learned a great deal. If I capture another one, I'll know for sure. He hadn't learned everything about Li Yule, but it was enough for now. Li Yule stared at the men before him with a blank expression. What do you mean? Hong Yesol has withdrawn from your request. The ones answering were the 4 red lotus ghosts. Li Yule's eyes turned cold. She said you violated the contract first. How skilled is he? We don't know exactly. But his stealth, infiltration, and assassination skills surpass ours. We tried to track him, but lost him. Are there many like that outside the Union? None. They answered firmly. So an assassin of that level, who isn't part of the 100th Union. Li Yule frowned. They had already identified everyone who entered the Jin Manor. There was no record of such a person. He's not ordinary. He understood my intentions. How did the Jin family recruit someone like that? Li Yule found it troubling. The Jin family he knew preferred straightforward confrontation. If they now had someone capable of strategy, things would become far more complicated. Could it be him? Without hesitation, Li Yule took out paper and began writing. A request to the captain of the 100th Union. When he finished, he opened the window and let out a long whistle. A black falcon descended from the night sky and landed at the window. A spirit beast used by the 100th Union, reserved only for select clients like him. He tied the letter to its leg. With a powerful flap of its wings, the falcon vanished into the darkness. Li Yule murmured, the best way to hunt an assassin is with another assassin. The Hao clan's Hainan headquarters was located in Zhengzhou. This main headquarters oversaw all branches spread throughout Hainan province. Information from across the region was gathered by each branch and sent back to Zhengzhou, where it was analyzed to understand the overall situation. It said that more than 100 people joined the Jin family yesterday. Large groups of unidentified warriors have appeared in Xinjiang. Their destination seems to be Runan. Many warriors were also spotted in Yongcheng. According to reports from courtesans, they are also heading to Runan. Messenger pigeons from various branches carried in urgent reports one after another. Many of the Hao clan's analysts had been gathered in Zhengzhou, allowing them to closely monitor the situation. Li Guiyang, the head of the Henan headquarters, looked at the young man sitting before him with visible tension. The young man was Hong Yuxin, the chief inspector of the Hao clan. Although Li Guiyang held authority over Henan, he could not ignore Hong Yuxin. After all, Hong Yuxin was responsible for auditing and overseeing all branches. Naturally, he was someone every branch head found difficult to deal with. His presence in Zhengzhou proved that the central authority was taking this conflict very seriously. Numerous clients were requesting information about Piowol. It meant that his name had resurfaced in the world. He knew Piowol better than most, and that knowledge was precisely why he was uneasy. It hasn't been long since he stirred chaos at Wudang Mountain, and now both the Snow Sword Manor and Rain Mountain Manor are searching for him. Wherever Piowol appeared, death followed. His reputation as the Reaper was no exaggeration. We believe he's staying at the Jin family manor, though we don't know why. Why would he support the Jin family? From a practical standpoint, the Snow Sword Manor would offer greater benefits. Perhaps he has a personal connection. There was a time when Jin Jimwu stayed in Sichuan. It's possible they met then. But Jin Jimwu is already dead, yes. But the circumstances of his death remain unclear. The Hao clan had investigated it multiple times, but had found nothing conclusive. I'll go to Runan myself, Hong Yushin said. You intend to go personally. It'll be easier for me to approach him. Li Guiyang hesitated. Hong Yushin was too important to risk lightly. If we send others, they won't get close to him. I have a better chance. But be careful. I didn't become chief inspector by chance. I trust you. At that moment, sir, a panicked voice echoed through the room. One of the information officers rushed in, pale-faced. What is it? The Shaolin temple has made a move. They've dispatched monks down the mountain. Where are they headed? Their destination isn't confirmed. But given the situation, Runan, Han Yushin said, it seems Shaolin intends to intervene. If it's Shaolin, their intervention could stabilize things. The Shaolin Temple was the de facto leader of Hainan's martial world. Though they had remained quiet in recent years, their influence still spans centuries. The conflict in Runan was drawing warriors like a whirlpool. I'll go to Runan, I need to see it myself. Very well, I'll inform the local branch. Piowol woke early the next morning. He was a light sleeper to begin with, and the noise outside hadn't helped. He hadn't rested well. Quietly, he stepped outside. At that moment, he ran into Zhu Gang. Did you sleep well? No, same here. Too noisy. They walked side by side toward the dining area. With so many new arrivals, the Jin family had built a temporary dining hall. It was little more than a wooden shelter, barely shielding against wind and rain. Inside, dozens of tables were arranged. You're drinking this early? I can't eat without it. You'll die young. I don't mind. He laughed, though there was something hollow in it. Sensing there was more to it, Piowol didn't press further. He disliked interference himself, so he avoided interfering with others. A loud cheer erupted from the entrance. Oh, Zhugang frowned. Sounds like a big shot has arrived. Big shot. These days, people shout like that whenever someone famous shows up. He stood up. Let's go take a look. Piowol nodded. He valued first-hand observation, especially when it came to people. A large crowd had gathered at the entrance, forming a wall of bodies. They pushed through. As Piowol moved forward, his expression subtly stiffened. He felt it, a presence sharp like a blade, calm yet overwhelmingly heavy. It pressed down on the surroundings. It was strange. People were shouting excitedly, yet the air itself felt still, like oil and water, two incompatible states coexisting. Most didn't notice. He appeared ordinary, but the aura surrounding him was anything but. Only those who had reached great heights could sense it. The Sword Saint, Lord Han, has come to support the Jin family. Only then did Piowol understand the man's identity, the Sword Saint, Han Yuqian. Many had come to support the Jin family, but this was the first time someone of Han Yuqian's caliber had appeared. Han Yuqian calmly observed the crowd. Most wore similar expressions, a mixture of awe and fear. He was long accustomed to such looks. Han Yuqian's gaze locked onto someone, a man with a face more beautiful than most women's. Only that man looked at him without awe, without fear, without any emotion at all. The moment their eyes met, Han Yuqian felt a strange chill. It was as if an invisible blade had pierced his heart. It had been a long time since he had felt such a thing. Was there someone like this in the Jin family? The irritation he had felt earlier faded, replaced by curiosity. Was this man worthy of facing him? Han Yuqian focused his chi into his eyes, his gaze sharpened, like a drawn blade. For an ordinary warrior, meeting such a gaze would feel like their eyes were being pierced. But Piowol remained unmoved. His expression didn't change. Han Yuqian was releasing killing intent. What's going on? The crowd panicked and retreated. Han Yuqian frowned at the commotion. In that brief chaos, the man he had been watching had disappeared. He expanded his senses, but there was no trace. The man had vanished completely. For a moment, a chill ran down his spine. If someone capable of erasing their presence so completely chose to strike, even he could be in danger. Just then, Jin Siwu hurried over. The moment Han Yuqian saw him, his expression turned cold again. The mysterious man was forgotten. Jin Siwu bowed respectfully. Welcome, Master Han. If we had known you were coming, we would have prepared. Why would I inform the Jin family? Don't misunderstand. I didn't come here to help you. The lively atmosphere instantly froze. Piowol had already left the Jin manor. Han Yuqian's declaration didn't affect him much. He had never expected help from him in the first place. The only thing he noted was this: Han Yuqian would be a difficult opponent. A gambling den. In a city like Runan, such places always existed, and they were usually hidden in alleys like this. From the outside, it looked like an ordinary house. But the constant flow of people and the guards at the entrance gave it away. Two large men stood watch. As Pyoel approached, they blocked him. "What's this? We don't take women." Without a word, Pyoel opened his pouch. Gold coins gleamed inside. The guards' expressions changed instantly. "A VIP. Go ahead." They stepped aside. Here, status meant nothing. Only money mattered. As he entered, one of them muttered, "1 hour. Half an hour," the other replied. "He looks like someone who's never gambled." They chuckled. To lose everything, even his clothes. To think someone like him might end up selling himself. Their crude laughter echoed. Though they thought they were quiet, Pyoel heard every word clearly, but he remained unaffected. Inside, the gambling den was loud and chaotic. Sixes, I won, cheers erupted. At one table, a man celebrated wildly as two dice showed 6, the highest roll. He hugged his winnings. Others looked devastated. Joy and despair mixed freely. At each table, 5 or 6 men played different games, dice, cricket fights, even bare-knuckle betting. Everyone was consumed by greed. No one paid attention to Pyoel. Even his striking appearance couldn't compete with the allure of money. He calmly took a seat at an empty spot. The man beside him frowned. "Got money, kid. Stakes here are high. If you're short, leave now." Without speaking, Pyoel overturned his pouch. 20 gold coins spilled out, a heavy sum. Greed flashed in the man's eyes. "Well, well, the god of wealth has arrived." The others grinned. "Let's start. Time to teach the kid how the world works." To them, Pyoel was prey, easy to strip clean. They exchanged subtle glances. Though usually rivals, gamblers often worked together. When an easy target appeared, "Long time no see. What brings you here? Don't tell me you came because of me." "Yes. I decided to take on the mission you abandoned." Hong Ye-seol's eyes sharpened. Hyuko ranked among the top 5 of the 10 assassins of the 100th Union, far above her. Though she herself was among the top 10, those ranked higher were far more ruthless and secretive. "I can't believe Hyuko is here." She had expected someone else to take her place. But not him. It was rare for Hyuko to move. Unlike most assassins, he wasn't driven by money. He only acted when something piqued his interest. "Did you know the 4 Red Lotus ghosts are here?" he asked. "I know. That's why I withdrew from the mission." "And yet you still came." "Who says I came alone? What do you mean? A few others have arrived in Runan as well. Ice Slayer and Dark Ghost. Neither of them ranked in the top 10, but they were not far behind Hyuko." Goosebumps rose on her skin. If such assassins joined forces, there would be no target they couldn't eliminate. Each had a different style, but all were masters of killing. "Now tell me," Hyuko said. "That assassin, the one you and the 4 Red Lotus ghosts were chasing." Hyuko smiled, baring his teeth. Only then did Hong Ye-seol understand. He wasn't interested in the mission itself. He was interested in Pyoel. Hong Ye-seol glared at him. "He's no easy target. I'm not like you. I don't back down once I take a job. I heard you cross paths with him and lost. If not, why abandon the mission halfway? Tell me about him. You'll regret it." "I've assassinated 172 people. I don't regret killing." "Forget it. If you're not in the mood, no point asking. It'll only hurt your pride." With that, he vanished. Hong Ye-seol's expression hardened. His attitude was blatantly dismissive. How dare he? She clenched her teeth. A higher rank didn't necessarily mean greater strength. The difference between them was minimal. Victory could depend on condition alone, yet he treated her like she was beneath him. "You shouldn't have done that." A faint smile curved her lips. An idea had formed. The gambling hall was silent. It was an unnatural silence, especially for a place usually filled with noise and excitement. Though many people were present, no one spoke. All eyes were fixed on one man. He sat upright like a statue. Before him lay a mountain of gold coins, as if all the wealth in the gambling den had been gathered at his feet. In fact, it had. He had been there for half a day. "What's going on here?" A rough voice broke the silence. Zhang Noya, the owner of the gambling den, had arrived. Zhang Noya stared at Pyoel. "Who are you? And why are you ruining my business? What are you waiting for? Break his limbs. Strip him. Take his money. Leave the nails, though. They might sell for a good price." Phantom daggers shot forward. In an instant, they pierced through Zhang Noya's men, shoulders, stomachs, limbs. One by one, they collapsed. Zhang Noya trembled. The daggers hovered in the air before him. Sword chi, cold sweat poured down his face. "Master, I've committed a grave sin." He dropped to his knees. Powerful warriors had flooded Runan. People like Zhang Noya had been especially cautious. Yet this man, he wasn't in any of their records, which meant he was even more dangerous. Pyoel spoke. "Tell me about the Snow Sword Manor." Zhang Noya sifted through his memories before beginning. He remembered clearly what the manor had been like before the Jin family arrived. Once he began speaking, long-forgotten details resurfaced. He told Pyoel everything he knew. He had no choice. His life depended on it. The only time he hesitated was when Pyoel asked follow-up questions. "Now tell me about the Jin family. Start from when they settled in Tianzhongshan." Unfortunately, it didn't end there. Pyeolwol also questioned him about the warriors who had entered Runan. Jung Noya even summoned his subordinates to provide additional information. Identify and report all notable individuals who have entered Runan, Pyeolwol said. Having survived in the underworld for years, Jung Noya quickly grasped his intent. To survive, he had no choice but to obey. Pyeolwol nodded. Jung Noya bowed deeply. We'll send men out to gather information. Where should we deliver our reports? I'll be staying with the Jin family for a while. The Jin family understood. By the way, what about the money, the gold coins you won yesterday? The piles of gold still sat on the table. Use it to gather information. Keep the rest. Thank you very much, he bowed repeatedly. Without another word, Pyeolwol walked out. Once he was gone, Jung Noya's expression hardened as he glared at his subordinates. Not a word about today. Make sure the guests keep their mouths shut as well. If this gets out, none of us will live to see next year. We finally arrived. A middle-aged monk wiped the sweat from his brow. Beside him stood a younger monk in his early 20s. Still, we arrived sooner than expected, the young monk said. That's thanks to you, Bo Kyung. Your guidance made the journey easy. You flatter me, senior brother. Bo Kyung smiled awkwardly. He was a second-generation disciple of the Shaolin Temple, while the middle-aged monk, Shong-un, was a first-generation disciple. Among his peers, Shong-un ranked third after Shong-mu and Shong-wan. It was widely believed he would soon become an elder. Gentle and reasonable, he was respected by both juniors and elders alike. However, as he gazed upon Runan, his expression darkened. A heavy tension hung over the city. With the Snowsword Manor and the Jin family recruiting warriors daily, conflict seemed inevitable. Skirmishes had already begun. If left unchecked, the entire Henan province could be drawn into war. To prevent that, the Shaolin Temple had sent Shong-un as a mediator. The very fact that he had been dispatched showed how seriously they viewed the situation. His burden was heavy. When they reached the Snowsword Manor, Seong-un's expression grew even heavier. A massive crowd had gathered at the entrance. Those who couldn't enter had set up tents outside, turning the area into a bustling camp. The two monks made their way through the crowd. Warriors waiting in line, tense from staying up all night, instinctively made way upon seeing them. Their foreheads, Shaolin monks. Soon, a man rushed forward. I am Gong Yom Yui, head of the outer division of the Snowsword Manor. We welcome you. Amitabha. I am Song-un, a first-generation disciple of Shaolin. This is Bo Kyung, a second-generation disciple. I wish to meet your master, the Manor Lord. Please inform him. Oh, of course. Please wait a moment. He quickly sent word inside. Please come in. Li Yul heard the news that Song-un and Bo Kyung had entered the Snowsword Manor while he was in his room. He wasn't surprised that the Shaolin Temple had sent people. He had already expected their involvement from the moment the conflict with the Jin family began in earnest. After all, the clash between the two factions was unfolding practically in the Shaolin Temple's backyard. Are the monks from the Shaolin Temple still with the sect leader? Yes, they're staying a meeting. When they're done, treat them with utmost care, enough to make them feel burdened by it. Understood. Baek De-kyung bowed his head. Oh, there's something else. A guest has arrived. The person you requested earlier has come. As Baek Do-kyung stepped outside, Li Yul muttered to himself. Now the outline is finally taking shape. Baek Do-kyung returned with the guest. The door opened, and a man entered behind him. The man bowed first. Jang Moryang, leader of the Black Cloud Corps, greets you. Pyeolwol scanned the room before taking a seat by the window. It took quite some time before a waiter finally approached him. Bring me stir-fried pork and a bowl of noodles. Right away. The waiter bowed and hurried off. Pyeolwol turned his gaze back to the window. As he quietly observed the scenery outside, everyone must be tired from the journey. Rest well until the captain returns. Don't drink too much. Good work, everyone. Pyeolwol frowned slightly. Among the voices, he heard one he recognized. He turned his head. Hyo Ranju and Dao Shigo. The newcomers were members of the Black Cloud Corps. Dust clung to their clothes, showing they had traveled far. Hyo Ranju froze in surprise as she noticed him. She glanced at Dao Shigo, clearly flustered. She hadn't expected to encounter Pyeolwol here. That bastard. It's him. The other members quickly recognized him as well, their hostility rising instantly. Hold your positions. Hyo Ranju and Dao Shigo stepped forward, stopping the others. They were just as shaken, but they knew better than to fight him here. Only a small portion of their forces had entered the inn. If they were to confront Pyeolwol, they would need the entire corps. I didn't expect to see you again. Hello, handsome. Hyo Ranju forced a casual tone as she sat across from him. Dao Shigo joined her, smiling despite his missing arm. Few people could smile so calmly at someone they deeply resented. Pyeolwol spoke first. You're here on a job, aren't you? A job, we're just passing through. What about you? The same. Is that so? What a coincidence. Dao Shigo chuckled. At this rate, it almost feels like fate. But why show your face? Didn't you used to cover it? Trying to charm women now? Even if I were, it's none of your concern. She clenched her teeth. Meeting Pyeolwol here unsettled her. The Black Cloud Corps had been hired by the Snowsword Manor. Jang Muryang had gone ahead to meet their client, while the rest waited outside Runan. Only a few had entered the city to avoid attention. Listen, handsome. Leave this place, then we'll have no problems. Whatever you came here for, give it up. So you are here on business. And you're not. An assassin like you doesn't linger without reason. Who hired you, the Snowsword Manor, or the Jin family? I told you, I'm just passing through. Do you really expect me to believe that? Kerchief flared. The Black Cloud Corps members drew their weapons. Dao Shigo sighed. Among them all, he had the most reason to hate Pyowool. He had lost an arm and nearly his life to him. Yet he held back for the sake of Zhang Meryong's greater plan. You really need to calm down, he said lightly. You look like a jealous wife catching her husband cheating. What did you say? Her outrage broke the tension slightly. But then, a soft voice interrupted. You kept me waiting so long. What are you doing here alone? All eyes turned. A woman in red silk stepped gracefully into the inn. It was Hong Yseol. She wasn't strikingly beautiful, yet she possessed a captivating charm that drew every gaze. She moved like a butterfly, approaching Pyowool before sitting beside him with a shy smile. Did you forget? We were supposed to dine together, and yet here you are eating alone in such a place. She clung lightly to his arm. You should stay with the right people if you want to rise. Her eyes flicked toward Hyo Ranju filled with subtle disdain. The men didn't notice, but Hyo Ranju did. Who are you? Hong Ye-seol smiled sweetly, tightening her hold on Pyowool. I'm his lover. Hyo Ranju's eyebrows shot up in shock. Is she the reason you're staying in Runan? You actually let yourself get seduced by this vixen. Hyo Ranju alternated her gaze between Pyowool and Hong Ye-seol. In response, Hong Ye-seol deliberately put on a seductive expression. Her charm blossomed instantly, captivating everyone in the inn. Even the warriors of the Black Cloud Corps couldn't take their eyes off her. Clinging tighter to Pyowool's arm, she said, It's only natural for a man to be drawn to a beautiful woman. Don't spout nonsense. Well, I suppose someone like you wouldn't understand. Hong Ye-seol smiled faintly as she looked Hyo Ranju up and down. The meaning behind her gaze was impossible to miss. How dare a whore insult me? You look crude, with no trace of femininity. No wonder men aren't interested in you. What are you saying? Don't you know how popular I am? With that figure, if I were a man, I'd run away. She was completely outmatched in a war of words. Dao Shigo panicked as he sensed her ki rising and quickly tried to restrain her. Let go of me. I'll kill that bitch. Oh my, how uncivilized. Hong Ye-seol continued mocking her without mercy. What are you doing? Hurry and hold her back. Unable to restrain her alone, Dao Shigo called for help. The nearby Black Cloud Corps warriors rushed over and pinned Hyo Ranju down. Only after 4 men restrained her did she finally begin to calm down. You bitch. The moment I get my hands on you, I'll kill you. If I stay here any longer, my ears might bleed. Let's go somewhere quieter. Pyowool nodded silently and followed her. Pyowool glanced at her. What are you thinking? Why did you come here? I just thought it would be fun. You have terrible taste. I hear that often. She tightened her hold on his arm. The one who replaced me is already in Runan. Be careful. That's all I can tell you. Just stay alert. His target is you, not the Jin family. I'd be quite sad if you died to him. Suddenly, she kissed him on the cheek. Pyowool frowned. Hong Ye-seol released his arm and stepped back. I've given you my warning. With those final words, she vanished without a trace. Pyowool stared in the direction she disappeared. He must be one of the top 10 assassins of the 100 Wraith Union. Someone of Hong Ye-seol's caliber would only feel threatened by others at her level, which meant her replacement was likely even stronger. And there won't be just one. He must have also hired the Black Cloud Corps. Having already faced them once, Pyowool knew their capabilities. Previously, they had been outmatched due to lack of information, but next time would be different. They would be prepared. The Black Cloud Corps was not just a band of mercenaries. They were as disciplined as an army, skilled in tactics and coordination. If a large-scale battle broke out, their true strength would be revealed. The fact that Li Yule had mobilized them meant he was planning something far greater. He wasn't merely trying to reclaim dominance over Tianzhongshan and Runan. He was aiming for something bigger. The atmosphere within the Jin family had completely changed, all because of one man, Han Yuqian, the Sword Saint. His declaration that he had come to witness the Jin family's downfall had chilled the previously rising morale. Ordinarily, someone who made such a statement would stay elsewhere, but Han Yuqian insisted on residing within the Jin estate. A middle-aged man approached, a sword resting against his chest. He walked straight toward Pyowool. This was no coincidence. His gaze was locked onto him. Pyowool stood his ground, unmoving. Han Yuqian stopped in front of him. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Han Yuqian broke the silence. You were the one watching me yesterday. His voice was as cold as a winter storm. A swordsman of his level could wound others with nothing more than a gaze. Most people couldn't even meet his eyes. But Pyowool didn't flinch. That alone piqued Han Yuqian's interest. As Ga Young said, you're a madman. Ga Young, one Ga Young, yes. I am her master, Han Yuqian, the Sword Saint. Only then did he reveal his identity. Yet Pyowool's expression remained unchanged. Han Yuqian's brow twitched. As she said, your will is strong. To stand like this before me. You think too highly of yourself. Not everyone will kneel before you. Others have said the same. Do you know what happened to them? I cut out their tongues. Pyowool and Han Yuqian stared at each other. It looked as if they might strike at any moment. A battle didn't require movement or the swing of a sword. Han Yuqian was a warrior who had reached the very peak of swordsmanship. He didn't need to hold a blade to harm his opponent. Han Yuqian's gaze shifted to Pyeolwol's mouth. At that same instant, Pyeolwol's eyes flicked to Han Yuqian's wrist. Han Yuqian seemed to flinch slightly. Before his gaze moved to Pyeolwol's chest, Pyeolwol's eyes dropped to Han Yuqian's feet. Han Yuqian's expression turned cold. This was no mere staring contest. Their eyes probed, measured, and provoked. Where their gazes fell, that was where their swords would strike. Ordinary warriors would never understand such a concept, but those who had reached the level of Han Yuqian and Pyeolwol could read the opponent's intent through their eyes alone. Though they stood motionless, they had already entered a world of their own. Within that imagined realm, they exchanged countless attacks. Han Yuqian was genuinely surprised that Pyeolwol not only understood his intent, but also responded in kind. This kind of mental duel was impossible unless the opponent stood at a comparable level. There was no need to test him further. He had no choice but to acknowledge him. Han Yuqian was cold and ruthless toward those he did not recognize, but to those he acknowledged, he could be surprisingly generous. He opened his mouth. "I apologize, you are indeed worthy of speaking before me. Ga Young's judgment was not wrong. You came because of those children's deaths, didn't you?" "That's right. I always told Ga Young, if she stayed close to a child like Jiam Wu, her life would be short. She needed to be careful, but she never listened." His voice grew heavy, "And now she has returned as a cold corpse." "What was the cause of her death?" "A sword wound." "A sword wound, a tiny one, on her forehead no larger than a child's fingernail. To an untrained eye, it would seem like nothing more than a scratch from a branch." His fists clenched. But through that wound, a massive surge of energy entered her body and completely destroyed her brain. It was like an internal strike. "My precious disciple died in such a miserable way. I can't forgive Jin Jun Wu for dragging her into the Jianghu. If not for him, she wouldn't have died." "That's just sophistry." Han Yuxian's eyes sharpened. "Sophistry. It was her choice, not his coercion. You simply needed someone to blame, so you placed it all on the Jin family." Han Yuqian was silent for a moment. "Perhaps," he admitted, "but it doesn't matter. I'm not a generous man. What if the real culprit is revealed? Then I will exterminate everything connected to them." "Why bring up the real culprit? Have you found something?" "I'm searching. I don't have proof yet, but I have a lead. It will become clear soon." Han Yuqian frowned. He found it hard to believe. After his disciple's death, he had searched tirelessly, but uncovered nothing. Han Yuqian stared at him for a long moment before speaking. "If you find the one who killed her and allow me my revenge, then I will stand by your side." His voice was resolute. "Even if the entire Jianghu condemns you, I will fight alongside you. I swear it in the name of the Sword Saint." In Runan, alongside the Jin family and the Snowsword Manor, there existed another powerful force, Golden Mountain Manor. No one truly knew the extent of its wealth, but many believed that if Golden Mountain Manor chose to spend its fortune, it could relieve poverty across the entire world. In the grandest hall stood a golden table. Two people sat there, dining. The man wiped his mouth with his sleeve, smearing sauce across the gold fabric without concern. "Excellent meal. The food was especially good today. He's the best chef in Henan. You know how much I paid to hire him, father?" "Of course I know. That's why I scolded you for wasting money." "Are you ready to apologize now?" He chuckled. "Still too expensive. You could have at least negotiated installments. Father, quality requires proper investment." Zhongshin Chung clicked his tongue. "What an unpleasant day. My only nephew returns beaten, and the valuable leverage I held has turned to dust." "You mean the IOU you lent to the Snowsword Manor? But you received the principal and interest, didn't you?" GM Suryan looked puzzled. "Do you think I lent that IOU just for interest?" His true goal had been to gain leverage over the Jin family. By holding their debt, he could pressure them and elevate the standing of Golden Mountain Manor. But repayment had never been his intention. Why hand something so valuable to them, especially to a mere attendant, not even their lord? "Suryan, I'm glad you're my daughter." She blinked, surprised. "You're intelligent, perceptive, and capable," he continued. "But what you see is not the whole picture. There are things I haven't told you." Drum Shuryan felt unease creep in. This was unlike her father. "Remember this," Zhuang Xinsheng said quietly. "In the Zhenghu, those who remain hidden are far more dangerous than those in the open." His voice grew heavier. "One day, when you stand where I do, you'll understand." In the end, he gave her no answer. "The energy of Tianzhongshan is even richer than I expected. No wonder the Snowsword Manor is so eager to reclaim it." The two monks stood overlooking Tianzhongshan as they spoke. They were Seong-un and Bo-kyung, currently on their way to the Jin Manor after visiting the Snowsword Manor. They had left the Snowsword Manor early that morning. During their stay, they had done everything they could to persuade Seol Kang-yeon. They argued that continued conflict with the Jin family would only bring suffering and needless death. But Seol Kang-yeon's response never changed. "Everything depends on the Jin family. If they return what rightfully belongs to us, nothing will happen. But if they refuse, we will take it back by force. We have just cause. No matter how powerful the Shaolin Temple is, you cannot interfere without justification." As soon as Jin Siwu heard that monks from Shaolin had arrived, he rushed out to greet them. I, Jin Siwu of the Jin family, pay my respects to the honored monks. There is no need for such formality, Song Un replied, raising a hand. It is we who are honored to meet you. Bo Kyung, I will speak with young Master Jin. You may look around in the meantime. Understood. Song Un entered with Jin Siwu while Bo Kyung wandered alone through the estate. I heard Shaolin sent someone, so it was you. And you, Brother Namgung, you came because of your ties with young Master Jin. That's right, as expected. Namgung Wol clapped his hands lightly. Come, let's talk over tea instead of standing here. He seemed genuinely happy to see Bo Kyung again. Bo Kyung felt the same. The tension he had carried from the Snowsword Manor eased slightly in the presence of a friend. The discussion between Jin Siwu and Seon Un stretched late into the night, yet it went nowhere. If the Jin family could concede even a little, how much more must we concede? If this continues, not only Henan but the entire Jianghu could be engulfed. And if we yield, what will Shaolin offer us in return? It's easy to ask for sacrifice when it's not your own. Zhongyun fell silent. Let us end here for today. Jin Siwu exhaled softly. My apologies, master. I've been on edge lately. Amitabha, it is only natural. Thank you for understanding. Fatigue was evident on Jin Siwu's face. Seong Un couldn't help but feel pity. He wanted to help, but he couldn't. Shaolin had to remain neutral. Jin Siwu personally prepared the best guest quarters for him. There is no need for such luxury, Shaolin said. This is the least I can do. Then I will accept your kindness. Under a large tree, Bo Kyung and Namgung Wol sat side by side. A bottle of alcohol rested between them. Though drinking was forbidden for monks, Bo Kyung made an exception for an old friend. Their conversation drifted from personal matters to Jianghu affairs, and finally to the conflict between the Jin family and the Snow Sword Manor. So the Snow Sword Manor refuses to back down. That's right, my senior brother and I did everything we could, but he wouldn't listen. Even invoking Shaolin's authority, it meant nothing to him, and whenever he was cornered, he deferred to an attendant. Someone highly capable. The others seemed to hold him in great regard. Namgung Wol frowned. His intelligence network had no information about such a person. Strange, if someone that capable existed, they should have appeared in the Heavenly Guardian Association's records. If we can't persuade one side, perhaps we can persuade the other. It won't be easy, Namgung Wol said quietly. The Jin family is already on the brink. Jin Wolmyong collapsed, and Jiam Wu is dead. If they yield now, they won't survive as a clan. Bo Kyung sighed. He already knew this, yet he still had to try. Jiam Wu was my friend. Aren't I your friend too? You are, but you're still alive. How heartless. It's late. Let's continue this tomorrow. All right, I'll walk you back. The two walked side by side to his quarters. At the door, Bo Kyung called out, Senior brother, it's me. May I come in? No response. Already asleep. That seems unlikely. Frowning, he pushed the door open. The moment he stepped inside, his eyes widened. Senior brother. His posture was calm, legs crossed, eyes half-lidded. At a glance, he looked like he had simply fallen asleep mid-recitation. But something was wrong. He was too still. Not even the faintest movement could be seen. If he were merely resting, he should have at least reacted to Bo Kyung's voice. Yet Song-un remained motionless, his gaze fixed on the open scriptures before him. A sense of unease crept over Bo Kyung. Senior brother, he called out louder. No response. Alarmed, Bo Kyung rushed forward. He grabbed Song-un's wrist to check his pulse, but felt nothing. Quickly, he moved his hand to Song-un's nose. No breath. Hearing the shout, Namgung Wol hurried into the room. The moment he saw Seong-un, his expression stiffened. It took only an instant to understand. Ahom Bo Kyung's voice trembled. Senior brother has passed into nirvana. Namgung Wol couldn't hide his shock. Seong-un was a first-generation disciple of the Shaolin Temple. Though ranked third among his peers, his martial arts were far from ordinary. Yet he had died silently, without resistance, and not just anywhere, inside the Jin Manor. The implications were terrifying. Without hesitation, Namgung Wol stepped forward to examine the body. He needed to determine whether this was a natural death or murder. A faint mark caught his eye. On the back of Seong-un's neck was a thin line, like a paper cut, no blood, barely visible. But in that instant, Namgung Wol knew that was the cause of death. He shut his eyes tightly. Damn it, the Jin family was thrown into chaos. A first-generation disciple of the Shaolin Temple had died within their estate. Worse, he had come as a mediator. This was no ordinary incident. It had the potential to shake the entire Jianghu. Why must the Jin family endure such a trial? The elders gathered around him were equally speechless. No one had an answer. Bo Kyung finally spoke. I will take my senior brother's body back to Shaolin. We haven't identified the culprit yet, Jin Siwu began. I don't believe the Jin family is capable of finding them. His voice was cold. Even the most composed person could not remain rational under such circumstances. Bo Kyung's heart was filled with guilt. This is my fault. If I hadn't left his side, it's not your fault, Namgung Wol said quietly. Don't blame yourself. Bo Kyung didn't seem to hear him. His mind was fixed. He would return Shongwun's body to Shaolin no matter what. But Jin Siwu couldn't allow that, not yet. If the body were taken away without clarification, the Jin family would bear all suspicion. Call him. If it's him, he can determine the cause of death. Go Kyung froze. At the mention of that name, a chill ran down his spine. An assassin, one of the best. Yes, he might be able to uncover the truth. Doubt crept into Bo Kyung's heart. Unlike Seong-eun, he was not entirely guided by calm reasoning. Though a monk, he leaned more toward the instincts of a warrior. An instinct now whispered suspicion. What if Pyeowol is the one who killed him? Before long, Pyeowol entered. The moment he stepped inside, he felt it. Bo Kyung's hostility. The unease of the Jin elders. They didn't like entrusting their fate to an assassin. Pyeowol ignored them. His gaze went straight to Songwon's body. He had already been informed. As he reached out to examine the wound, Bo Kyung spoke sharply. If you're not confident, leave. Pyeowol didn't respond. I consider you a suspect. His hostility was open. Pyeowol looked at him briefly, then said, step back. You're going to doubt me no matter what I do. If I'm a suspect, I won't touch the body. Pyeowol's gaze sharpened slightly. For a moment, it seemed he might attack. But the instant their eyes met, he froze. Pyeowol's gaze was empty yet piercing. It felt as if it saw straight through him. Bo Kyung looked away, ashamed. He hated that he felt intimidated. After a moment, he spoke again. No, I won't entrust my senior brother to you. His voice steadied. I'll send a messenger to Shaolin. Senior brother Unha specializes in medicine. He will uncover the truth. Wait! This will only complicate things further. Shang-eun's death now gave Shaolin a reason to intervene. They wouldn't send just one person. They would send their elite. The situation was spiraling. A voice shouted from outside. Everyone in the room tensed. Jin Si-woo turned sharply. What is it? We're in trouble. The patrol team monitoring the Snowsword Manor has been wiped out. Jin Si-woo rushed out. Is that true? They clashed with Snowsword Manor warriors. None survived. Jin Si-woo's face turned pale. The elders immediately reacted. We can't remain idle. If we don't respond, we'll lose face and support. We must retaliate. Momentum was everything. Hesitation now would mean defeat. So be it. Jin Si-woo made his decision. Summon the Iron Sword Corps. The Iron Sword Corps, their elite response force, was mobilized. This was only the beginning. The entire manor began to stir. Nam Gung-wol frowned. This can't be a coincidence. Pyeowol spoke quietly. You think it is. You're saying it's not. Nothing that happened today was by chance. Then, someone planned all of this. Pyeowol didn't answer. He simply looked at Shangwon's body. Even without examining it closely, he already knew. This was the work of an assassin, and among those currently in Runan, only a few possessed such skill. The 100 Wraith Union has begun to move. By killing Song-eun, they had drawn even Shaolin into the conflict. Pyeowol's gaze darkened. This is far bigger than a struggle for Runan. The Iron Sword Corps, dispatched by the Jin family, vowed revenge for the fallen patrol unit. They made good on that promise. Tracking down the Snowsword Manor warriors responsible, they killed all 12 without mercy. The Snowsword Manor responded immediately. They declared that they would avenge their dead. Thus, the cycle of bloodshed began to turn in earnest. At this point, it no longer mattered who had struck first. This was a battle that had been inevitable from the start. Neither the Jin family nor the Snowsword Manor could afford to back down. And now, there was no longer anyone to mediate. As the conflict intensified day by day, countless lives were lost, and public sentiment grew increasingly hostile. Dozens of cities fell silent. Streets emptied. Fear spread like a shadow. The clash between the two factions quickly became the central topic across Jonghu. Amid the ongoing battles, news arrived at the Jin Manor. Reinforcements had come. Their arrival greatly boosted morale. Bo Kyung still had not left the Jin Manor. Shong-eun's body rested within an ice jade coffin. Carved from rare jade that emitted a constant chill, it preserved the body from decay. At Bo Kyung's insistence, the Jin family had provided it. He remained by the coffin at all times. He barely ate, barely slept. Days passed, and his condition worsened. His gaunt appearance was enough to move anyone to pity, but no one dared approach him. A cold, suffocating aura radiated from his body, no less chilling than the coffin itself. Only Nam Gung-wol came to him occasionally, bringing food. At this rate, he'll collapse before anything else happens. Nam Gung-wol sighed. Bo Kyung was drowning in guilt. On the night of Songwon's death, he had been away spending time with Nam Gung-wol. That single fact tormented him endlessly. As time passed, his body grew thinner, and in his eyes, a murderous glint began to form. Nam Gung-wol felt a heady weight in his chest. If Bo Kyung hadn't been with him that night, would things have been different? At times like this, he wished he had someone to talk to. One name came to mind. Pyeowol. But Pyeowol had disappeared several days ago. To most, he was simply a striking young man. But to those who knew his true identity, suspicion had begun to grow. Bo Kyung's reaction that day had planted the seed. Rumors spread. Some even whispered that Pyeowol himself might be the assassin. Perhaps that was why he had chosen to vanish. Pyeowol stood alone atop a tall tree. Beneath his feet was a thin branch no thicker than a finger. It swayed violently with each gust of wind, bending as if it might snap. A faint sound reached his ears, like claws scraping against bark. Something was climbing the tree. Pyeowol frowned slightly. A rare reaction, then he saw it. A doll, small like a child of 3 or 4, made of wood and cloth, crude, unnatural, and climbing. It moved with eerie precision, gripping the trunk as it ascended. Tilting its head, it stared at him. Then it spoke. As expected, you really are handsome. Its voice was unmistakably human. If anyone else had seen this, they might have fled or attacked in fear. But Pyo remained calm. You're not surprised. It's you. The one who killed Seong-un. The doll clapped in delight. How did you figure that out? Pyewol didn't answer. Instead, his gaze shifted far beyond the doll, to somewhere in the distance. The doll followed his gaze, then laughed louder. This is wonderful. You really are something. Pyewol's gaze had pinpointed his true location, hundreds of miles away. How amusing, the doll said. What's your name? Pyewol asked. Huko. The answer came without hesitation, from the 100th Union. It leaned forward slightly. You seem to be in quite a predicament now. Why not join us? Honestly, I'd rather you didn't. It'd be a shame if I couldn't kill you. You're confident. I'm not like the others you faced. They all said that. But I'm different. We'll see. You won't be disappointed. Why kill Seong-un? Pyewol asked. Do I need a reason? I was paid. The consequences won't be simple. The client knew Shaolin would get involved, so why give the order? Aren't you concerned? Why should I be? If things go south, we disappear. You think you won't be caught? You don't understand the 100th Union. If we choose to hide, even Shaolin won't find us. To celebrate meeting you like this, I'll give you another gift. A chill ran through the air. Pyol's expression hardened, his instincts screamed. Without hesitation, he pushed off the branch. Boom. The doll exploded. A burst of fine needles shot outward in all directions. Each one carried enough force to pierce flesh and bone. But none touched him. He had already moved beyond their reach. The explosion was small contained. No one below noticed. Only the tree bore the evidence. Tiny needles embedded in its bark. Pyewol landed silently, his expression turning cold. So, this is how it's going to be. Thank you for watching. Subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss the next chapter.